Thank you so much for coming. I haven't held a live event in, gosh, years and years and years, and Walter talked me into this, and I'd sort of been thinking, that I would do this at some point, when I grow up and be a real adult and things like that. And does this make me real?
No.
Am I real now? Does holding a live event make you real? Like the Velveteen Rabbit reel and you get your whiskers all... Do you guys know the Velveteen Rabbit? Did you read that story to your kids? Okay, so yes, I am. I'm having whiskers, and I do like to pluck them as much as I can these days. So anyway, it's the 50-something thing. But anyway, the reason I'm so passionate about this concept, the dance, I've been saying this for a long time. I don't know who I heard it from, but the dance between property and paper, for me, it's such an important concept. And I see, people getting pretty close, but then the Achilles heel of both professionals and investors as alike is they don't understand. They're stuck. They can't get the paper to the cash, or they can't get the property to the paper to the cash. And so whether that's a real estate agent that's got a deal falling apart, that's a seller that's not being able to sell, that's a buyer that's not being able to buy. And, for real estate agents, they really like those commissions, right? So, and then you get investors that are, I guess a lot of people are here, who all is like part of your business model is buying cash properties that are cheap and turning around with owner carry? There's a few. That's really high. How many? Higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See? Okay, so this is a really important aspect. And so it's like, how do we get liquidity to that market so that you guys that are out there making homeownership possible for this segment of the population that otherwise just isn't going to have it? How do we get you liquid so you can step and repeat, step and repeat, step and repeat? And on the other end of it, how do we get investors, people that are retiring, that they need to make more than 0.25% on their retirement, and they don't need to be exposed to a 50% whack in the stock market at some point? You know what I mean? So, you guys that are not only the rainmakers, but the passive investors, we need to get everyone together so we solve these problems and unplug from, I like to say, unplug from Washington and Wall Street and just create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. And one of the things that, and I don't know how to be incredibly articulate about this, just that I've read enough to really form my opinions, whether they're educated or not. But, 1913 when the Federal Reserve, we got hijacked with the Federal Reserve System. And if you don't know why, read. And then when we went off the gold standard, fiat money is nothing. It's nothing. It's a debt slavery system. I'm not saying, you go out and buy TVs and take vacations. And, a good thing to do would be like trucks and motorcycles, and that would be okay. But, it's not getting in consumer debt. Just the fact every time they print $1, we're already in debt. It's a no-win situation. It's a plan to transfer wealth up the food chain. So to me, we're on the lam for a financial revolution of some sort that's meaningful, whether we go to some sort of asset-backed situation or who knows what cryptocurrency could mean. I really don't know what, right? But it's unplugging from the system. But for me, I can't change all that. But what I can do is take what we have. And so it's not only do I want to create wealth for my family, not only do I want to leave a legacy for the people in my community by the solutions I can bring to the table, but I just feel like it's time for a revolution. I really feel like it's that big. I'm just, I can get really mad, set my people free, because people are just, their life energy and their beauty and their passion it's just sucked out of them. They can't bring their voice and their beauty to the planet because they're so busy on that little rat race, just trying to, keep a McMuffin in their belly, So to me, it's a really, really important conversation on a lot of levels. That dance between property and paper. This is what it looks like. I always wondered what it looked like because I've been saying it for a really long time. So when you learn this dance and you can do it gracefully, backwards and forwards, you can see, I can see that you can make money, create solutions. And if you don't need any more money, then make it like Chris was Marks. Have you guys all met Chris Marks yet? If you haven't, well, you guys are all got to meet each other because y'all just beautiful people. But he's just saying, what do you mean you don't need more money? Because that's so fun to give money away. Well, make more money and use your creativity to go, what do I want to see more of in the world, and support that. We all, so it's fantastic. And just the standard disclaimer, look, my... Oops.
Did you all read that? Got it?
How come this doesn't work? How come this doesn't work? Oh, because, really, someone who calls themselves the No Queen, really, how much should you really listen? This is just for educational and entertainment purposes, right? Everyone, I'm doing the best I can with what I'm with. I don't know every single thing. There's a lot of people in this room that know more about certain segments, regulations are always tightening, what's happening in the real world, your specific accountant, your state. So obviously, you're going to do your own due diligence with your trusted advisors, right?
Right.
Okay, and there's a lot of people you can trust and to give you advice in this room. So this is fantastic. I feel so blessed and honored that you guys would take the time. It's not easy to get here, right? It's not like, just pop in on a nonstop and just you're there, right? You guys had to work to be here. So I really, really appreciate that. All right, so what I'm going to do just for the next few minutes is just create sort of a 20,000 foot level and sort of a conceptual, okay, and then we're going to get to know each other. But this is just, is anyone brand new to the note space right now? So you consider like it would be nice to have a little kindergarten introduction, right? Is this, okay, so forgive me, I know there's a lot of people that are very sophisticated in the room, but so just conceptually how do we have this dance between property and paper? So we need to know how to get from, we have property, real estate of all kinds, we've got paper, which are loans, right? Or notes, own and carry notes in that space, and then we have cash. So I'm trying to figure out how do we gracefully, just like that dance we just saw on the screen, how do we get from one to the other? This is what most of us know how to do this, right? We can get from cash to property, that's easy. Take 100,000, buy a property. Some of us know how to do that, but this is where it gets stuck, right? Getting from the paper to the cash and figuring out what makes a good note. How can I not be whacked off at the knees when I go to sell that note? And if you're the investor, how do I not buy a piece of garbage that's going to not be a passive investment, it'll be a headache for me, a job, right? So a lot of people don't want jobs, they want passive investments. So what happens to your portfolio when it goes non-performing? Is it passive, Sabrina? It's not passive. Okay, let's also be able to go this way. Buy a note, turn it into a property, turn it back into cash. Wouldn't it be great if we could go forward and backward and forward and backward with equal ease? So when we learn this discounted note space, the secondary market for notes, to me, that's where everything, the wheels get greased, okay? And we can create a lot more solutions. And when you create solutions, what do? Tend to
Create cash.
You make money, right? Okay, just now for the people that are new, secured versus unsecured note. Does this guy seem secure or insecure?
It looks like a Grease special.
Because you're referring to last night, aren't you? Actually, she did look like that at one point. Woohoo! Hey, we partied it up. Oh boy, she did. Yep. Yep. Okay, so that means there's no collateral. There's nothing securing it. It's a promise only, and if they quit paying, there's nothing to go get except a judgment and sue them or things like that. Does that make sense? So we're talking about secured notes. Does this guy seem pretty cocky and sure of himself? Because
Like me.
it does. Yeah. So basically, this conversation is about notes secured by real estate, just to set that stage for people that are new. All right, and this is how I say this is the playing field, and this is where things fit in together. And you can see that's a symbol of balance, and I'm not Jewish, but, I do love, sacred geometry sites and everything. I'm working out ideas, and I go, oh my gosh, that's the Star of David. Oh my gosh, that's the flower of life. So it's interesting when you start, like, oh, mystical. So we have 3 principles. You have property sellers, property buyers, and passive note investors. The people with the property, people who want the property, and the people who bring the money to the table. This includes banks, private lenders, seller carrybacks. Anyone not know what a seller carryback is? And I'll go over that for a second. That's people who own property, and we're going to repeat this, but people that own property and they sell on terms to someone. Like the people that sold us our home 3 years ago when we moved to, no, we didn't, how long did we been here? Well, they did owner carry. I said, I don't do banks. And Walter was like, I was pretty good at this, and then Walter one time in one of his, probably his wind-up geniuses says, "Down." How do you say it? Down. You just got to draw a line in the sand. That's almost Walter, not quite. And I go, he's right. I just don't do it. It's like against my religion, right? I'm allergic, like gluten intolerant, like bank intolerant. Like I am not going to ask permission to close, ever, right? And I've learned that from hanging around with, these yahoos. Yahoos like y'all. Okay, and then on the secondary chain, then from note buyers on the secondary market, we'll expand on that in a second. And we have 3, I would say professionals, or kind of like worker bees, right? You got the real estate brokers trying to make a buck between buyers and sellers. We got mortgage brokers making a buck between the money people and the buyers. And the piece that is usually missing is what's a note broker and how does that work? I know about wholesaling properties. There's a ton of stuff about wholesaling properties. Probably some of you have paid $40,000 or $50,000 to a company in your town to learn how to be wholesaling and rehabbing, flipping, and all that. Well, how do you do that same thing with paper? So you need to know, my goal is that when you walk out of this room, you know how to make money. You can stand, hi, you snuck in.
I found it. It wasn't easy.
Well, we try to keep it a secret.
Right. I just walked the long way.
It's not bad, right? Squirrels, yeah, sorry about that. Well, you're looking at me like, hi. So each one of you should be able to stand on any one of these dots. And if the market, you're not making money on one dot, go stand on another dot. All you got to do is slide along the triangles there. How hard is that? Right? Just go, it's all one conversation. It's all different sides of one thing. That sounds very Zen also, right? It's all, the view's the same from the mountaintop, and yeah, we're all the same. Well done. Okay. All right, so here's where passive note investors, okay? This is where notes come from. This is the primary mortgage market or originations, meaning just what it said. This is where they originate from. We're very familiar with banks. They lend what? Money. Okay. Then private lenders, Bo, what do you lend? Money. Now, and this is owner will carry, and you might see that in the MLS or Craigslist, someone's advertising OWC. Oh, pardon me, Quincy. That's where notes come from too. So that these are sellers that carried back paper or offered terms on the sale of their property. That's where notes come from. What do they lend? Money?
Equity.
Equity. It's the money can you see the money that's trapped up inside the house? It's locked up in there. That's equity. It's not out somewhere, right? Oh, the seller's gonna like take money from his bank account and give me a loan? No. He's taking cash that's stuck inside the house. And all of these people get a note and deed of trust. Every one of them, right? Right, say right.
Right.
So here's the secondary market for notes and or assignments. So these are the people that are just taking, what was originated and one more recorded document and taking an assignment of something that was originated. So with the banks, it's Freddie and Fannie, right? Those big institutions. And we don't have much to do with that. Most people in this room are not a bank, and we're not a Fannie or Freddie, unless that's, some pet name that I don't want to know about. And so these are the only two areas, banks and these other institutions, where you and I in this room cannot play. But everything else on this board is where we can play. Where you can be a discounted note buyer, or you can buy it out par if you want, right? There's paper that's originated as a mortgage. Who else is a mortgage broker besides Bo? David, right? David, anyone else? So the thing that's funny to me about mortgage brokers is they go, well, I don't do notes, or I don't get the whole assignment thing. And I go, wait, you guys originate notes in your company and then assign them to your investors all the time. You are in the note business already. You just aren't seeing it, right? It's like right under your nose. And I've seen a lot of, not you guys, but other mortgage brokers that are not in this room, they feel like it's such a big leap. And I'm like, it is not such a big leap. It's not weird. It's what you're already doing. The people that just take the time to fill in these tools it's not that hard to get a competitive edge, right? Just learn these few things. So I have bought discounted notes from private lenders. How often does that happen where, Barbara, how often do you get excited about lending $100,000 and getting back 90? Is that fun to you? No. So this is not where we buy a lot of discounted paper, unless they built it into points or something. I don't know how that would work. Not very likely, right? The only times I've done this is where someone had a life event and they needed to get out, and I just it's going to cost me a little bit of time. I'll charge you just a couple of points so I get my grocery money just to get you out of it, right? Does that make sense? So it's not they take discounts if they take back a property and they lose their shirt. That's how they usually take a discount. Now, how many people buy discounted paper from banks, institutional paper? Hi, Sabrina. How do you say your name? Marion. How do you say your name? Sochita? Sochita. Marion, Jeremy, Jean, and Wayne. Who else raised their hand? So that's 5 people. Yeah. Oh, did I not say Sabrina?
Sort of.
Oh, you've done? Okay. So this has been a big game this has been like hot. This is what everyone, all the things, it's like, oh, the note business is so hot, you can make a killing. When did that really start? Was that 2008, 9, 10? When did the whole...
So to be honest, it actually started in 2000.
What?
I sold, when I was working at the bank, when I first sold to the big investor out of New York.
Hold on a second. You're going to have to speak up, and this is for the recording.
So
Say that again?
in 2000, I started selling $500,000 pools
That's
to
just
one
for
of the big
recording.
players in New York
Yeah,
from
so-
National City Bank.
So in 2000, that was the beginning of it in your world?
Mhm.
That's incredible. But like for the rest of it, when everyone's going around and teaching and it got to be a really super sexy and hot topic, when was that? Like for...
It was probably 2002, 2003.
That was before everything melted down.
But no, so there was a guy by the name of Mark Kemp who was teaching investors how to buy notes, and was
Wow,
really
I did not know that.
yes. And but Mark Kemp got greedy,
Doesn't go over
started doing wire fraud, and ended up going to federal prison. Probably around 2000. I don't know when he went to prison, but he went to prison, and a couple of his cronies went with him.
Don't be a crony. Yeah, yeah, thank you for that. All right, Jeremy, when did you start buying paper, non-performing paper? 2013, okay. Wayne?
2009.
2009. You got to really, it was a hobby, but that was the juicy days of it, right?
Right, the 35, 40 cent deals.
Yeah, 35, 40 cents on the, who else? Jean, yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, please pass that around
About-
for the recording. Thank you. I forgot to think of that.
about 2012.
2012? Okay, fantastic. And you, Marion? 2014. So by the way, that is my daughter, Christy.
I'm the note princess.
I gave you that.
No, you did not. She did.
I told her that outside.
Yes. So anyway, for the people that were on the inside, Sabrina is telling us from 2000, 2002, 3, all these,
Prices were so cheap.
they were so cheap.
They were so cheap.
Don't you wish you were buying for your own account at that time instead of working for?
In 2000, I was selling first mortgages at 10 cents on the dollar.
First mortgages on 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So this game, you're still making money at it, right? You're still in it. You're at this paper conference, right? But it's getting tighter, right? Tougher, right? I mean, for the most part, don't you have to pay a lot more money for a lot worse product and more risk, right? Okay. Same with property. If you're just trying to buy property, it's harder to find a good deal, right? Because it's a sort of seller's market. But here you can buy, and this is where I came through. To me, the note business always meant this: people who carried paper on properties that they had sold, and then they wanted to cash out. So that's where there's still a lot. Even that's a really tight market too. Everything's just kind of tight. There's so much capital running around, and chasing this stuff, and some of it's doesn't seem to have a memory or be new to the game, or just they have the ability. I don't know. Is it big funds, big pension funds that are just buying up stuff because they'd rather make a 3% yield than lose 5%? I don't know what's happening. Sometimes it seems pretty crazy to me. I just know that, when I'm not depending on any one thing, it's nice for me. Like, oh, well, that's drying up a little bit. Let's put on the other hat. And of course, there's licensing and things involved in a lot of this stuff. So basically, this is just going around. You buy cash, you turn it into property, and you keep it. The end. That's a really boring animation. You can use leverage, right? So you buy with cash, not as much cash. You just need a little bit of cash, and you keep it as your home. And then you owe them, then you give them a note and deed of trust, and you faithfully pay every month and every month. And if you don't, what do? Okay, and this is my favorite, right? So buy with owner carry terms and keep it as your home. You don't need as much, right? You don't need all cash, but there's no outside party. It's all inside the circle. We have to me, this is a whole system now. It's not even anyone on the outside, even though you can be a nice mom and pop private lender. But to me, this is a whole system because now everybody can feel the pain of it together. Like you're kind of in. And so to me, I think it makes it more honest because you want everyone to win. And there's a heartbeat on every side of this transaction. And so they're going to lend you their equity, and that equity turns into a note and deed of trust, same as the bank. and you just make the payments to the old seller. The seller's just taking their hat as the seller hat and putting it on as their lender hat. Another, just these visuals, I hope they just, you can hold it for rent. You can just say, I'm going to be how many people just buy and hold for some rentals? Big guy out here in that, like almost everybody, right? So we mostly understand that, right? So, and if you use leverage, you need a lot less money to get in, but then, because the bank gives you the cash to do it, but then you got to pay them. You collect the rent, keep a teeny bit, keep a teeny bit, keep a teeny bit. And, over time, I guess you're banking on depreciation for your taxes and appreciation, right? But anyway, just how it goes there. And if the bank, how likely is the bank going to work with you? Be super, super flexible. Some of them are. Like, I just took over a modification that just blew my socks off. I'm really glad someone got a really killer modification because I just took it subject to that property, and it's amazing. But okay, same thing. Owner carry, we bought a duplex, and he lent us his equity. He needed 50% down. That turned into a note and deed of trust for him. And we get it. And we pay it back to him. And we keep a little bit. We pay it back to him. Right? So you can see this system in this circle of life. Lion King. Okay. So we did this already. Buy paper. Now we know, see, everyone knows how to buy a property, right? You buy cash or get a loan, right? How about, now let's do this. Let's learn to buy notes, and you hold it for not rent, but what do you get paid usually? Unless you made it a 0% loan. Interest income, right? This still puts the same cash flow in. Aren't we just trying to get more little sacks of cash in our cash pocket? At least enough to keep our bills paid, right? So that you're free. And that you can spend your life energy blessing the planet with your genius and not scrambling for a buck. Okay, and you can see that, was that a performing, in that last slide, was that performing or non-performing?
Performing.
It's performing because you can see they're dancing across the screen. Well, what if you buy a non-performing note? Here's what it is. You're buying paper, and usually, you end up foreclosing a lot of times, right? If you can't get it performing so that those little bags start going across the screen again, then you turn it into property. See, like this, it turns into things. They're shapeshifters. We got all sorts of shapeshifters here. And you can hold it for rent, and then you can go, well, I'm sure sick of being a long-distance landlord, and I do like this, like homeowners for people. That's a little warm and fuzzy. So why don't I take that tenant hello? No more dancing?
That's really high.
Oh, so you get a down payment, right? So you get a little more cash in your pocket, and then you turn that property into paper, and then it pays you interest. And that's good too, right? And then, or if you get sick of that, I got other projects, I want to get my stuff out, well, then just sell it back. Are you starting to get the picture? I know I'm going over and over and over. I'm just trying to show you this flow and this ease that I want you to be able to incorporate. We're going to get in some really deep and complicated strategies, but I'm just making this top-down thing. Okay, we already did this part, so it's just going through quick. And then just real quick, this is if you use a... this is subject to. So this is if I take, there's still a bank loan, but my name's not on it. My signature's not on it. So this was a property we just closed on. It took 4 months to clear title. They had some messes on it. But it's in Washoe Valley, which is between Carson City and Reno. supposedly. I don't know if what it's really worth, but they said 800, whatever. You know, you don't know until you're trying to sell it and someone will pay it. And they had a 612 balance on it. And so if I'm just like, I'm all into property investing now, and if I'm trying to buy 65 or 70 cents ARV, is there room to solve a problem for the seller? Can I? What's 65 cents of 800,000? Or if I'm buying 70 cents even? How much is that? 520, the loan's 6. Can I give any equity for the sellers who now live in Arizona and they're desperately wanting to get a little bit of cash so they can buy a home instead of rent over there? They always thought they were going to come back to their dream home. They've got a tenant in. It's obvious they're never coming back. They need $40,000. Now I'm in it at 650 plus. Does that sound like a really good investment for like a flipper?
No.
No. Subject to. So that loan, the PITI on 612, PITI, that's $500 of taxes and insurance a month, is $1,800. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 5-acre ranch house property, horse property. So I'm renting it right now for $2,500 till I decide what I want to do with it, but am I losing? So I give them, most investors couldn't have done anything with that. But because, there's trick for me, so the whole deal is preserving the existing financing. So my whole deal structure was very specific at how do I preserve that existing financing. And trusts, feature a lot into that. And so anyway, so I got them to get their new house, and I got a future play. This loan runs another 20 years. 20 years, I think 20 years I could think of. If $700 passive on that isn't enough, I could think of something to do. I'm sure prices will be up sometime.
Did you give him 40 grand?
I did. 40 grand subject to, because I don't care, because look, in 4 years, oh yeah, pretend like there's no repairs and maintenance, right? But I get all my 40 grands back in my pocket. And now I'm just like, another 16 years, let's write it out. So it's solving a problem, and I have this option that I can play. I can play that anytime I want. But for now, so what? It's cash flowing. It's a play in a part of town that I like. We like that Washoe Valley area. Okay, and then you can do a wrap, right? Mortgage wraps. If you buy it subject to that same loan, that your signature's not on it, but you're paying it, then you, instead of keeping it for rent, you sell with owner carry. Wrap to somebody else, right? So you're paying, you made a down payment, now you wrapped it. So this is my way of showing a wrap. Okay, so it's just that now the person that bought the property from you owes you a bigger note than what you owe the bank. Does that make sense? Is that an easy way to think of it? The buyer pays you $1,000, you only owe the bank $700. Right? So that new buyer pays you, but you owe on the underlying. Dun, 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 dun. We can buy with hard money. We talked about that. You need more money in your pocket and more reserves generally for hard money lending, but the deal is to get in and get out, and just boom, another big wad of cash that you can pay taxes on. And that's why we're here talking about tax strategies also. Right? But why don't you think, to me, more owners should carry on this stuff, right? I know it's not always possible, because I would not that I don't like making points, but I don't like paying points. I would rather say to that owner, look, I can pay you a little bit more if you carry and give me 6 or 12 months to rehab this. So I give you a big down payment, you lend me your equity, it turns into a note, it's secured by a deed of trust, I pay, and we turn it back into a big chunk of cash. So these are just different ways we can play it. Now this one, I'm almost done with this, so bear with me. My little circles and my little animations here. So we got this, we sell with property, turn it into property. Now we take a down payment and we turn our equity there into a note. And we're getting our interest payments. Yay, more money. Okay, but then, well, now I don't have my seed capital, and now I have another deal in front of me. And I wish I could have my money back to go step and repeat and buy another property. So I've got a financial friend. This is one of my early on people that we've had a wonderful relationship over the years, and he's got some money, and he took half of it out of the stock market and says, do something with it. You know, he lost half of it in the downturn. It came back, and then he took his profits off the table, and now he's doing this. Okay, so Bill sends me a big wad of change, and now I give him, but I didn't sell him the whole thing, because then it would take too much of a discount or too much risk for him, one or the other. He has security. If I don't pay him or any doesn't pay him, doesn't matter. He's going to get that property back. So I've protected him. So those payments that come from the note, they're not going on my side anymore because I sold him a front-end partial. I sold him the first, let's say, 10 years of a 15-year note. But then when he's paid off, I mean, I just did a deal where I got $10,000 up front, but my remainder interest, yeah, I got to wait a little bit. There's another $40,000 just passive waiting to come to me. Isn't that kind of good? Cash now in the pocket for groceries, retirement plan for down the road. Right? Step and repeat, step and repeat. I got notes, I get all my cash back, and I got retirement coming in.
So when you said you sold a partial note, did you put them on a deed of trust? What did you do?
Yeah, that was that me showing the yeah, so I gave him the assignment so he had the security instrument. He took full assignment. Even though I had a remainder interest, he took full assignment. You see that he's got the bondage play on the collateral? He does. Until I pay him off. Faster, please. Line up. Until I pay him off, he releases it, assigns the note back to me. So it's a chain of assignments in public record. Right?
Dawn, I have a question.
Ma'am.
Who holds the original document?
That is a great question for you to elaborate. I usually do, because, you know, I've started with my oh, sorry. Hey, Christy, can you hold that?
I was gonna say, I mean,
Just run. I mean, you work out for a reason.
Always repeat the question.
I could repeat the question. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Who holds the original documents?
Who holds the original documents? That's a great question because, and I do. I mean, I just have, except for, you know, when there's somebody that I don't know at all, and then usually it's an attorney or a title company or a servicing company. Because what if I buy a front-end partial, if I'm the one buying it, and I just conveniently never think to assign it back after I've got my money, that's kind of creepy, but that happens. Or an entity that bought a front-end partial is now defunct and you can't get a signature from anyone. That's a bummer, right? So there's things that you can do to protect yourself. All right, so how is an owner carry note created and sold? A lot of you are going, okay, but I know, I get the idea, but I want to know the paperwork. And we're going to show this to you. So you trade the equity, the owner will carry, seller gives his equity to the buyer, and they give a down payment. Buyer gives a down payment. That creates a note. It says, I promise to pay. It's a promissory note. I promise to pay. But just in case I don't keep my promise, there's a security instrument, a mortgage or deed of trust. So if you don't pay me, then I'm going to take your property so I can sell it and get my money back. The buyer, it's a real sale. Some people go, but is this a real sale? Is it legal? I mean, do they really own it? Yes, they do. So they're on title. They have an owner's title policy. And this is the piece that a lot of owner carries miss, or even their attorneys or title companies say, oh, you don't need to do that with owner carry. They don't need a lender's title policy. Well, they sure do if they're going to sell it. It's really creates a problem. I like having an owner. So it is more expensive to get it after the fact. So get a dual policy, no matter if you think you're going to sell the note or not. Now, the buyer is the named insured on the hazard insurance, right? They're the named insured. But whether it's a bank, a private lender, or an owner will carry seller, you're the lost payee or mortgagee on that policy because you get paid first of the property. So that's really it. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard, much harder than just buying real estate, is it? Pretty similar, right? Deirdre?
So if I'm understanding, so if I've sold the property to them, they're paying me, they're paying the insurance,
Yes.
but I'm the first on.
You're the mortgagee, so you're gonna get paid first if there's a claim.
Do I give them any? Do I give them any? Because they're paying the premium for that insurance. So if they owe me $5,000 when it burns, but the policy's for $15,000 or whatever, do I give them any of that money? I struggle with the
You're just
little.
saying they owe you some money.
If I'm carrying the note and they owe $5,000 on that note,
They owe you 5,000.
but the place burns and the policy was for $20,000, should I give them, integrity-wise, should I give them any of that money?
No, you
No.
just take the money and run and be a creepy. Creepy. Take your chances with the karma. No, great question though, because you have to have two. Anyone know how this works out in real life? I've never had a situation where. How does it work out in real life? Speak loudly, please. And
So the way it works is you're only entitled to what the balance of the note is, the unpaid balance. So that's all you can collect on. Everything else is considered equity towards the borrower.
but the check is running out to both of you. So in actuality, how do you do it? Like the lender cashes the money.
Like you
and
said, karma and all that. Yeah, I mean, you can't even get them to. You have to have them sign the check, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean everyone's got to play nicely.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
You learn in kindergarten, play nicely with others.
and generally they don't want to play nicely if they're a borrower, especially in my world, which are non-performing notes, right? But
They don't want to play nicely. Well, who else was, Gail, you were going to say?
I was going to say the same thing, you get what your debt is.
Yeah, and some people think, oh, I buy a note because then I'm going to get that property. No. If you bought a $100,000 note and it's worth $300,000, it's going to go to trustee sale or something, and someone's going to outbid you. It doesn't mean, they get all like salivating, oh, I'm going to buy this note. It's like 30 cents on the dollar. I know I'm going to get that property. No, you're not. Usually, if there's enough equity, someone else is
Yeah, you get
gonna-
what you're entitled to.
You get what you're entitled to. Okay, so then, and the seller's fine receiving those payments for a while, then they have a life event, or the kids inherit the note and they just want all split cash instead of a bunch of payments. So the note buyer comes in, gives a big chunk of change, and here's how you buy a note, ladies and gentlemen. You do an assignment of the note, the original note. Anyone do stuff without original notes in the institutional space? You guys don't need original notes very much, do you?
True.
You do? Just seems like
You can get away with it in
You can
certain
get a-
states. Oh, hi. You can get away with it in certain states, but like Florida, you don't have the original note, you're not closing.
even on the institutional stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah, especially. I
Huh.
mean, the institutional folks are the ones that created the climate in Florida for not using lost note affidavits anymore. So when you lose a note, you would have the borrower fill out, or this note seller sign a document referred to as a lost note affidavit. I, the seller, misplaced this note. Here's my signature, and that takes care of that problem. You can't do that in certain states anymore.
Gotcha. Any other commentary on that same topic, Sabrina?
It's not as cut and dry in Florida, actually. It's very jurisdictional. So you can in certain counties and you can't in others.
Okay,
We
so
have done them.
yes and no with and without original notes. California, I've had lost note affidavit.
Texas too.
Yeah.
So there is a nice judge in Cleveland, Ohio. Go in front of him and you don't have your original paperwork, he will dismiss the foreclosure with prejudice. And it's a known fact. And he'll just say, tough luck.
Your loan's wiped off.
It's not wiped off. You still have the right to enforce it. You just can't collect on it. Until they, like if
What
they
does that
sell-
even mean?
So
How
if
do you
they sell the
enforce without
property-
collecting on it?
If they sell the property, you still can.
Oh,
you can-
if they decide to clear title at some point.
Yeah, but if they want to just keep on passing it down generation after generation after generation.
That's better than a 1031.
um,
I think that's I didn't think of that strategy. See what you learn when you come to the property papers lemon on Lake Tahoe? Plus, isn't this gorgeous? Oh, my gosh.
I have a comment too.
Gail, yes.
It's a negotiable piece of paper. That's your dollar bill.
Yeah, it's like the check that if I write a check, nobody takes a photocopy of my check. They want the original check, even though I'm not sure it means anything, but like I have to have it, right? So you write on the back, it could be as simple as writing it over and endorsing a check. Pay to the order of blah, 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 sign it and date it. I mean, I've done stuff like that. Or you can have these documents, the formal assignment. This is recorded, deed of trust was recorded, this is recorded, it's usually a 2-page document that says now the note buyer is the beneficiary on the deed of trust or the mortgage. Sometimes I have this done, sometimes I don't, but have the lender's title policy endorsed over to me as the note buyer, and of course I have to make a call to the insurance company to change out the lost payee, mortgagee information, right? And then the seller who was receiving the payments says, goodbye. And the new note buyer says, hello, send your new payments here. And Sabrina is going to talk about should you be servicing your own note if this is an owner-occ. But let's just pretend this is a business purpose, even though that looks suspiciously like a house. So really, the paper trail is super, super simple. 2 documents. Couple phone calls, 3 whatever. So, all right, we are wrapping this part up. I'm going to save this for later, what makes a good note.